Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here. Today I want to give you guys a highlight of the best build that I have made in last Epoch so far. It is a BEASTMASTER, and it comes from a few mechanics that I think weren't really figured out before I actually happened to stumble across them. It is a build that I didn't play to 100 and passed because honestly, I felt like it was too easy. If you want to play an extremely strong build, if you want to play Last Epoch on toddler difficulty, I got you covered in today's video. So let's get into it here. This is my character. There's a few things that I want to point out that I think are very important. Last Epoch, I play offline mode, so I'm not trading items with other players. Also, for every single character that I make, I choose to play it solo character found. So that means that items that I find on my other characters cannot be traded to my other characters. So the items that he has are just found on the way leveling to level 95. This is what I would consider fairly basic gear for this build. There's nothing crazy here except, I guess, a 23 strength exsanguinous, which, yeah, is pretty good. I mean, at level 95, because I'm using kind of the Circle of Fortune, I have found 10 LP exsanguinous armors up until this point. So yeah, you know what? It's not that crazy that I have that. I got a few T7 strength chests and I duplicated them, and one of them finally hit. I had a 2 LP cleaver and I got 2 stats that basically don't do anything at all. I got the right boots and I got crit avoidance, which is something that's completely worthless. No LP on the heart, sure, some health on Frozen Eyes, and no LP on Artur's Legacy. If you want the full details of the build, they will be on the build planner in the description in the video, but I just kind of want to show you guys the interaction and why this is such a crazy build. So first off, let's talk defenses. Everyone knows ward is like really good. I have like 8,000 sitting ward, which is pretty good. I'm at 111 strength, and this build can push up to 200 strength. And because we use what is most likely the most broken item in the entire game, Cleaver Solution, our intelligence is equal to our strength. So we have 111 int, even though we don't actually have any int on our character. So what does this int give us? Int gives you 4% ward retention. So the more strength you have, the more ward you have, because with exsanguinous, the boots, and the experimental modifier, we lose current health per second and we gain missing health as ward per second. So if you have those 3 items, you try to get a little bit more health, which increases your regen, and you try to get more strength, which increases your int, which increases your ward retention. This build, I wouldn't be surprised if people push it to 30,000 plus ward, and we're not talking about using abilities. This is just sitting in town. I think you can hit 30,000 ward on this build. Now, this is a build that uses Summon Storm Crows, and there's a very big reason why we do that. So, it is the only skill in the game that actually scales from both int and strength. And even though the in-game tooltip only says that it scales off of strength and attunement, the reason why it actually scales that is I noticed in the data mining that even though strength and attunement scales the global damage of the Stormcrow, the auto attack of the Stormcrow is called Lightning Blast, and Lightning Blast actually scales off of intelligence. So basically, the idea is pretty simple. We stack strength on every single item possible, which gives us completely crazy armor. If you want, you can armor cap this build. You can get 13,000 armor. It's probably not even hard to do that. And then that strength gives you int, which gives you a ridiculous health pool, ridiculous regen. And if you have 200 strength and 200 int, and you're just using Stormcrows with nothing else, their attacks will have a scaling of 1,600% minion damage just from your strength. And I should also mention that I believe strength is the best attribute in the game because strength shows up as a prefix on items and percent armor is a suffix. percent armor competes with health stats, it competes with ward stats, it competes with regen stats, it competes with crit reduction stats, it competes with absolutely everything. But prefixes are a lot more relaxed in the game. But the highest strength roll on a prefix is right about the same as much armor as you're going to get from an equal level armor roll on a suffix. So that actually makes strength one of the strongest, if not the strongest stats in the game. One issue that full ward regen characters have is they don't really use their endurance, because if you get hit when you have ward, even though you're below your endurance threshold, it doesn't actually use your endurance. But for us, that's good because we don't really care. And there is actually something in Primalist that does work. It's called Berserker, so we have less damage taken on low life, 20%. This is working all of the time, so this is effectively 25% more EHP. And we use the Boar aspect, which the good version of it, the chance on hit, is exclusive to Beastmaster, which gives us another 30 DR. And we have this up all the time. So this is really insane just as is. And to give you guys kind of a rundown of the skills, so we summon the Storm Crows. We want to have as many as possible, and we want to scale attack speed as much as we can. Like my next 5 levels, I'd put them in Viper Fangs, just because even though my minions don't actually use attacks, they use spells, just melee attack speed for me is extremely important, because I'm constantly spamming Tempest Strike, and Tempest Strike has this thing where if I hit for 8 seconds, I get a spell damage buff plus 4 spell damage for me and my minions. Now, the most stacks you can get is 3 from this effect, but you can also have 30% chance when you proc a Tempest. Now, I only proc 1 Tempest, so I'm basically getting just a little bit more than 3 per second when I have crazy attack speed. But if you have more than 50 int, which honestly you wouldn't really care to do on any other character, but for us it's free, it actually doubles the effect on minions. So we get 8 flat spell damage, and effectively we can get up until 30 stacks. So we can get about 240 flat spell damage for each of the Storm Crows from just spamming this ability. Now the Storm Crow button, Crow Storm, is extremely strong, but most of our flat damage is from Gladiator of Lagon. Like if we go to this and we just use Crow Storm, it just hit for 6,000. Wow. Best build in the game? Yeah, right, Kripp. What are you smoking? Well, the cooldown on Storm Crow is actually fairly long, but we do use the nearest companion ability on hit with the Swipe. So that's why Swipe is in there. Swipe has a cool cooldown of 1.7, which we can get down further. Ideally, you want to have cooldown reduction on the belt at the very least, if not on boots as well, and both rings. So you can get this down probably pretty close to 1 second if you actually have good gear. But keep in mind, my gear to make this character currently is what I would consider garbage, okay? Now, another thing that makes the character extremely ridiculous is the fact that we use Warcry. So you're invulnerable for 1 second after you use Warcry. You can get Warcry at about 3 second cooldown with all the CDR I was talking about. So you're going to be invincible about 1/3 of the time. And with Fury Leap, you can get immune while leaping. And Leap actually, takes a little bit of a second. We want Leap for the movement aspect of it, but it also gives flat damage and a few other buffs like Frenzy when we land. So the Warcry also gives us a crazy amount of cold. So it gives us cold damage, increased crit chance and chill chance, and these are for the minions as well, which we do convert to cold. The Storm Crows get 8 base crit. That stacks 3 times if we hit with melee hits. So 24 base crit plus the 5 they start with. And if we give them 100, and I think it's a little bit more here. I don't remember where it is. Yes, you and allies affected by Warcry get crit chance. Yes, so we triple the crit. We actually have about 100% crit while investing absolutely nothing for crit in our gear. Okay, so let's get to it. How does the character play? Well, the downside of this build is there's a lot of buttons. So you want to be kind of Tempest striking like crazy. You can kind of see the Lagon buff. That's the one that's like over here. We got like 14 stacks. When you're going through a map, you try to like hit your movement skill while you're doing this, because standing still is just not great. Now this attack doesn't take any mana, so we're good on that, but we do want to keep the stacks up pretty high, and it's a good idea to kind of do the leap on cooldown, because that's going to give the minions frenzy. It's going to give them a little bit more damage, and we want to also use the war cry, and if we do that, we can hit for 2 million. Yes, the Crowstorm with this setup hits for 2 million. And we can hit constantly. There's another 2 million. There's another 2 million. There's another, well, that was like 3 million. 3 million on that one, right? There we go. 2.5 million, 2.1 million, 2.4 million. That's a 2.3 million, 3.2 million, and a 2.7 million. Now, the target dummy, I think, is like a lower level target, so obviously these numbers are going to be a little bit higher than what you actually do in monoliths, but that was just me attacking. That wasn't even with the Crow's auto attack, which has a ridiculous multiplier as well. I think you guys can kind of start to get why I'm calling this just about the most ridiculous build in the game. Now, it has one issue that I think if you get to like corruptions close to like the thousands, your minions might start dying off, so you might have to like strongly prioritize minion health. You never really have to worry about minion damage, but minion health might be a bit of an issue. So this is the character kind of like, you know, like I don't have LP on that. Just this isn't even T7, T6, T6, T6. Okay, I have a T7 there, but you get the idea. This is very far from a min-maxed character still, and 170 strength, 3,200 life, 11,500 armor, and the minions are like crit capped, have like 200 plus flat damage on each of them, and the Crowstorm is popping off like every second at the very least, potentially hitting for millions of damage. And let me tell you, this is a game where these damage numbers are absolutely ridiculous. From my personal run with this build, it was, when I got the build online, it was the easiest leveling build I've ever played, even though I haven't played that many builds, but it was by a considerable margin. The single target DPS was so absurd that around like level 80, I was doing like corruption like 150 or corruption 200 in the winter boss, which is like the centaur guy that summons adds when you get him to 50% and when you get him to 30%. On a couple of my kills, my DPS was so high that I skipped both phases at level 80. So there's very few outliers in Last Epoch other than kind of the ward mechanics, but this is certainly one of them, so much so that I kind of stopped playing this character just because of how broken it was. But I thought you guys might enjoy a fun ride. Maybe you play and trade, and maybe you have a lot of the items I mentioned and you don't play solo character found, so you just want to give it a spin, and for that, I have the link about the build in the description below. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see you in the next.